there's not a lot going on in Philadelphia sports right now. No, admittedly. Like, this was not a great idea to decide to start a YouTube channel after football season. That's on me. I was a track 3 kid, admittedly. So what I'll do, because the Phillies got rained out, and other than talking about Bryce Harper getting hit and whether or not it's a big deal or whether or not they handled it correctly, I'm going to talk about OTAs because it cracks me up around this time of year when the OTAs start for NFL teams, and you will have holdouts. You'll have guys that just go, you know what, I'm not going to show up to just walk around in shorts and a t-shirt. I would be that guy if I had the clout to do so. I don't think any NFL player is jonesing to do OTAs, and especially in the Eagles' case, because I don't know if you're aware of this, they won the fucking Super Bowl. Now, the Eagles don't have anybody holding out for OTAs. I mean, they haven't signed Jahad Campbell. They haven't signed Makuba. I'm going to butcher that name 55 times until I finally get it right. They haven't signed those guys, so those guys I don't think are showing up for OTAs. But for the most part, like, they don't have any holdouts. But one of the holdouts for OTAs is Hassan Reddick, who signed a 1-year deal with Tampa Bay. Obviously, Hassan Reddick was looking for a new contract with the Eagles, didn't get it, got traded to the Jets, held out until, week 14, it seemed like, and finally got in the field, and thus will end up fetching the Eagles a third-round pick. I think he had like 1 sack with the Jets, and then he moved on to Tampa Bay, and now it's like, oh, well, I can't believe this guy's not showing up for OTAs. I don't get the outrage, and I never did. Now I'm going to take you back to the year 2017, where the Eagles had a young upstart quarterback named Carson Wentz. They had a coach that a lot of people were still kind of on the fence about, and Doug Peterson, and they hadn't won a Super Bowl. And they finished the season previous year 7-9, and there were questions. And they gave $100 million to a defensive tackle. And what did that defensive tackle do? Thanks, but no thanks. Did not sign up for OTAs. And he skipped. And the sports radio, sports media world was a buzz over Fletcher Cox dare skipping OTAs. Now, how do I know this? Well, because my previous employer at the time had a thing called All-Star Day. And it was supposed to be a fun day. It was supposed to be a day around now in the summertime where you would have everybody kind of on the air at once, guys in shifts that they normally weren't in. You'd have a rotating cast of characters, and it was supposed to be fun in the sense of like we'd spin a wheel and we'd ask questions and stuff. What's the worst guest you ever had? Stuff that was like round table at the bar talk. And that's what we did the first time. First time it was great. First time it was some of the best radio we've ever done. Second time, however, we did the All-Star Day. I mean, we had guys in different spots and all that. But we decided to we're going to do more sports stuff, because it's sports radio and we're men. Problem is there was nothing to talk about. So for 12 hours, it didn't matter who was in and who was out. The topic of conversation was, is it okay for Fletcher Cox to skip OTAs? And I remember being there at the time. I was working in promotions, dumbfounded that this is what we were doing. That we were making a big deal out of a defensive tackle skipping OTAs because he got paid, and what kind of message is that sending? And that's usually the thought with NFL fans is like, well, he's supposed to be a leader, and this is the message he's sending. He wants a new contract, and he's holding out. That doesn't send a good message. Who gives a fuck? Honestly, you know why? Because that year, I don't know if you remember this, the Eagles won the fucking Super Bowl. And fast forward from May to February when the Eagles did hoist their first Lombardi trophy and Fletcher Cox was up there hoisting the Lombardi trophy, nobody was sitting there going, no, but wait, he doesn't deserve it. He skipped OTAs. Yeah, he skipped. Remember that? Remember he skipped OTAs? Obviously the leadership took a hit. Look, they only won by 8 points. It is the biggest myth in all of the NFL. And the only reason that it's ever a storyline is because it happens in May and there's not a lot to talk about. If skipping OTAs happened in October, and I understand, like, it couldn't, okay? But, like, walk with me for a second. If the NFL season had started in December and skipping OTAs happened in October, and you had the NBA and the NHL and playoff baseball going on, it would be an afterthought. But because this is the only thing going on, then sports fans will kind of make a mountain out of a molehill about a topic that doesn't really warrant it. Because if Hassan Reddick goes out there and has 15 sacks or 17 sacks, which he's very capable of doing, we all know that, no one's going to go, yeah, I don't know about giving him a contract, though. He skipped OTAs. The horror. He skipped OTAs? Oh my God, no. Because he can get to the quarterback. Now, he hasn't done that in over a year, and I think if he would have actually played for the Jets, if he wouldn't have held out for the new contract, which he didn't end up getting, it was restructured and all that, but I think he would have had, a typical Hassan Reddick year. And I expect him to have a Hassan Reddick year for the Jets, but it just cracks me up. It's one of those, stupid talking points that when you really sit back and think about it, doesn't matter at all. Not one bit. This doesn't really also have anything to do with the topic that I placed, and I thought about doing a whole video on this. The Braves bullpen coach, Eddie, God, forget his last name, Eddie Perez, might be the softest human being in sports. And I'm sure if you're following this account, you're a Philly sports fan and you've seen it already, but every time this guy comes to Philly, he's actively trying to get people kicked out from heckling his pitchers. Now, on one hand, you go, well, that might be admirable. I don't. I think that's baby shit soft. And that's coming from somebody who's baby shit soft. And video surfaced once again of Eddie Perez on Tuesday getting people kicked out because they were heckling Spencer Strider. Dude, you're a pro athlete. This is sports. And I know firsthand that they don't allow you to say the vitriolic things that would have been okay at the vet. They will escort you out of the stadium if you really get out of hand. But if you're simply just standing there and heckling a guy, maybe this is why you didn't have a great career, Eddie. Because I looked up your baseball reference, and granted, it's better than mine. But in terms of Major League Baseball players, you had to go into coaching pretty quick. At what point in your career did you know, yeah, I'm going to have to go into coaching? And if you can't handle this, a Tuesday in May, I'm blown away. I think out of all the Braves, and I don't like any of them, but I think out of all the Braves, I might despise their bullpen coach more than anybody. I don't like Brian Snicker and his Grumpy Cat routine, but he doesn't seem this soft. I definitely don't like Spencer Strider and his tight pants. Yeah, I don't like any of them. But it's amazing to me that this guy stood out. So that's just a sidebar topic that I can now do. And this is what you'd probably get if I was on the air because I'd have no calls. I'd look down and go, oh, yeah, no one called up. And I have 10 more minutes left. What am I going to talk about? And then I'd hope to God that I had a producer who could talk. That's a whole other story for another time. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe. You know where the buttons are. And let me know if I'm totally off base with OTAs or if you're in agreement that they're not that big of a deal.